Tonight we will examine concepts that may challenge your perception of the world around you. Strange creatures, chilling tales, and the occasional conspiracy. Here on our show, we will attempt to provide you with paranormal insight. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Tonight's story is with JJ Rose 777. We will discuss her first case with SCARI. But first, a little background of what led up to us asking for a psychic, because as you may recall, in case one, we had a pair of psychics with us, and I will admit they were amateurs in their field, but they did provide us with some insight. Left the team in 2011, I believe. And so it was just Henry and I doing tech investigations for the better part of a few years, up until 2014. And at that point, we were left to do a lot of research after the fact, not only having to roll through all the evidence on the tech throughs, but having to find paranormal and parapsychological explanations as to what we were experiencing, and we had to provide that in the report to our clients. That was becoming, tedious, time-consuming, and a lot of times we were left with some bare bones basics as far as making these reports to our clients. We were only serving to validate experiences, and then most times we were debunking their experiences. I can't tell you how many times it was pipes or other type of degradation to the house, the structure of the house, be it plumbing, be it electrical. In fact, one case, it was a matter of having a house that was rebuilt from scratch by a person who was not a contractor at all. Just kind of followed the basic blueprints of the house that once stood there. And they wired the house horribly, and it actually was emitting the strongest, like a dangerous amount of EMF. It was in the red on our K2 meters. That was leading to hallucinations. They were sick constantly inside that house. The family was. And, it was more than anything, the bulk of our casework came down to debunking and providing real world answers to what our clients were experiencing that were potentially paranormal. Henry and I decided that we needed a psychic again, so I put a couple of ads out on the internet, and while I'm letting the ads do their work, we get a case. There's a family, they're in trouble, they're seeing shadow people, specifically their little girl is, and they're having some really violent experiences in the house. Objects being thrown across the room. Just prior to my arrival at the house that day, there was a cup that was hurled across the kitchen just after it had been washed and dried. It practically leapt out of my client's hands as she put it down on the counter. It just goes flying across the room, and they left everything where it was. And they took pictures of stuff and showed me their pictures. And I inspected things as best as I could. Mind you, I didn't have any of my equipment with me except for my camera and my voice recorder. So I redocumented the evidence, and then I proceeded with the interview. And it became obvious that the house needed to be cleared and cleansed. And this was like the third or fourth case that had come into SCARI switchboard, so to speak. And I don't do at this point, I don't have the ability to do clearing and cleansing, or clearing or cleansing, I guess is the proper term. So, so we desperately need a cleaner. We meet JJ Rose, and she is hot to trot. She is not having anything she's seen on TV. She and I are in agreement on that these poor people are left upside down, right, JJ?
Yeah,
In the worst way. They are left.
absolutely.
Yeah. So there's no real solution to the folks on TV, and I couldn't agree with her more then or now. So I inform her, hey, got this case. There's this little family that's being tormented by shadow people. They, pardon the term, the pun, ghosted me thereafter because they didn't like the fact that I couldn't do anything on the spot. So I inform her, hey, okay, we're in a holding pattern until something else comes up. And it was like a week, less than a week later, give or take, that we get another case. A bunch of college kids call us. It's like something is wrong in this place. And they give us the background. There's full body apparitions. It's a classic haunting. Object manipulation, temperature differentials, and phantom footsteps and all that fun stuff. So we go there, and it's JJ's first time. JJ, we ask you, or actually, you request to wait outside. You beat me to it.
Yeah,
I was going to do that anyway.
I
You
did.
beat me to it. Says, okay, I'll wait out here while you do your tech through. It's like, that's perfect, man. She is the one. So Henry and I go in, we do our tech through, and the first thing we really experience is in the bathroom. We get some weird hits back there, and they don't make a lot of sense because they're in the middle of spaces. They're not by electrical outlets or any of that. So, and we also experience temperature differentials. Never mind, it's stifling in that house to begin with, and it shouldn't be. It's a fall, I think fall, give or
Yeah.
take. Yeah, it was a fall evening, relatively cool even for California, and it shouldn't have been that hot in the house. And they had their AC cranked to the max, and it felt like 80 or 90 degrees in there. Anyway, we do our tech through, but we experience energy bleed immediately. All the batteries drain, the backups drain. I called JJ up. I said, okay, come on up. We're low on power, but we'll record as much as we can. And JJ, I will let you take it from there.
So as I got up the 3 flights of stairs,
Yeah, they didn't have an elevator.
it was a lot of stairs
Yes,
for
it was.
absolutely no reason, I
Yeah.
felt. So I was kind of expecting in my mind that you were going to have cameras set up in every room already filming, but obviously not knowing you had had the drain go on, I was just anticipating, okay, everything's already set up. So when I walked in, I deliberately had all of you in the back rooms. So I pretty much walked in and there was no human in the kitchen, dining room, living room area. It's kind of open concept.
Yeah.
And immediately I took one step in and put my entire back against the door. And just pressed there
Right.
because taking stock of what was happening. Now, mind you, right next to the door is a tripod with a camera. And so I'm thinking in my mind that you're filming this. This is great. And in front of me is a galley kitchen. So there's cabinets on either side. And then at the very, very end of the kitchen is a door that leads to, it's like a utility closet.
Yeah.
And so no one is in the living space with me. Everyone's in the back bedrooms. And as my back's against the wall, all of the cabinets slowly open
Yep.
and then they all slam.
And we heard that
And
too.
then, yeah. And the door to the utility room with the creepiest little
Yes.
opens up slowly. And I'm looking at the breaker box,
Yeah.
which if you're familiar with what a breaker box is, basically it has a metal door that you have to put your fingers and clasp this thing,
Yeah.
pinch it, and then raise it up in order to open the door.
Right.
So it's not easy. It's not like a normal door where you can open and close it. And then that thing opens up. And I'm standing here with my back to the wall watching all this happen. And I'm thinking, wow, you guys want to get stuff on camera like A+ on this, right?
Yeah.
And then you guys come out asking me what just happened. And you see me against the wall,
Yeah.
and my eyes are a little big, and you're
Yeah.
looking at me like, oh God, because we had made arrangements in advance that if you ever see me run, follow.
Yeah. Ready to run. We're ready.
Oh my God. So at this point, you and Henry come out, and the gaggle of
College
20
kids.
somethings
Yeah.
come out, and everyone's looking around, and they see the utility door open, and I just point to the camera. And then you come over and you're like, oh, that's been dead since before you came in.
Unfortunately, that is absolutely true.
And I was so upset.
Yes.
So I was like, well, cool. So let me wander around a little bit, which I did. So I wandered around a little bit, did my little reading thing. And one of the first things that ended up happening is we took one of the young men aside. It was one of the girl's boyfriends.
It was the girl's boyfriend, the one who called us, the one
I
who had
think
the
so.
experience.
Yeah, but not the one who was kidnapped by
Oh,
the
it was someone
satanic
else. It was the
cult.
other boyfriend. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So immediately I said, hey, can we talk to you outside? And I mean, you got to understand, these are like maybe they're 20 years old.
If
Like they're young. This is their first time away from home.
yeah,
They're in relationships, cool, they got their own place, but there's 4 girls living there. And so
remember there were
there's 3.
6 people living there. 2 of them weren't there.
Yes, that's right. There's
Yeah,
way too many people there
yeah.
for that small of a space.
Mm-hmm.
So I took this young man outside, and I remember you were with me. Henry, I think, was still inside. I don't remember him being next to us when that happened, but I start talking to the young man, and I informed him that he had a attachment.
Oh, this was. Wait, I think he might. Wasn't that downstairs?
Yeah, we took him outside down all those stairs
Okay.
because we needed some air at a point.
Yeah,
That
that's
place
true.
was like
True. Yeah, we had
was a sweat box. It was
yeah,
pretty bad.
pretty horrible.
So, in the parking lot, because I needed him as far away from the location as possible,
Right.
informed him, you have an attachment. It's from your childhood. It's a childlike spirit, but it's draining your energy and it's causing this, this, and this to happen to
Right.
you. He confirmed all those things. He actually remembered when this thing came to him when he was little
Oh,
on the playground.
I don't
And
recall
that,
that. That's great. I'm glad you
yeah.
remember that.
And then he actually accepted her. She asked him, can I attach to you? And he said yes. I mean, he was 4 or 5, right? At the time, but
Yeah,
still, like, he said
still.
yes.
He said yes. Yeah. Wow. That's demented.
And then he knowingly, all these years later, kept her and gave her some of his energy, which is why he was lacking so much motivation and he was having a hard time with his classes and courses and all these things that have plagued him through his life, that he'd been checked for, I think it was like mono and lupus numerous times because they couldn't explain his lethargy.
Yeah, Lyme disease. I think I remember Lyme disease being mentioned.
Yeah, there were a few things that he was like, oh, well, that answers that. I've been tested for all these things numerous times,
Yeah.
and they can't figure out why I'm so tired. I'm like, well, this is why. So I had offered to him, if you want it removed, I can go ahead and facilitate that right now. And I'm a very strong personality. I can handle myself. But I'm really glad you were there for this, especially because in this instance, I'm alone in a parking lot of a really random place by myself with this kid. And
Yeah.
he says, yes, please remove it. And then all of a sudden, his entire body stiffens and
Yes.
his hands go into fists.
Yeah, they ball up.
And he starts shaking almost.
Uh-huh. I remember that.
And he looks at me and he says, I don't know why, but I'm so angry at you. And I'm like shaking, like I want to hit you.
Yeah.
And immediately you step in because you're protective. And I'm like, it's okay. He's not going to hit me. And so I tell him, well, that's your attachment.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to go. And you're literally telling me I can facilitate her going. And so you kind of facilitated him physically not getting aggressive because he was starting to.
Yeah.
And I did the removal, and within minutes, his whole demeanor changed.
Yes. He
I mean,
was
all of a sudden,
suddenly
he
a
was
brighter,
relaxed again.
yeah, yeah, he was a brighter individual because he was just dour before. It's like, yeah, man, very low key and dour, to give it a word. And then, like you said, his everything changed. He went brighter and he had all this energy all of a sudden.
Yeah. And I remember when you did the check in, I think it was like a week or two later, I told you,
Yeah.
and you checked in with them, and they even said he's only sleeping like 6 or 7 hours a night now, and he's good. He's going to all of his courses. So that was huge.
Yeah.
So that was just the beginning.
Yeah, it gets better from there.
Oh yeah, this is
as,
delightful. Like I
as,
said, throw me in the pool at the deep end. No floaties on.
and no noodles. No
No
noodles.
at all.
The pool noodles is what I'm referring to, by the way.
Yes, I dog paddled very, very well. So we went back upstairs um
and you had to isolate him energetically, if I remember correctly, before we took him back
well,
up.
yes, I did.
Okay.
That's right. I made him kind of stand away from everyone else for a little bit.
Yeah.
And um
And
that's
well, if I remember, we went back in, and that's when things started getting a little twitchy in the place, like because you brought a new energy in to the space. And I remember that one little water bottle just started wildly rocking more and more and more and more. And
that's
then,
right.
I think something actually flew or slid across the sink right in front of one of the girls.
On it, so they had a peninsula bar
Yeah,
from one part of the galley kitchen
yeah,
that led into the living room,
r-
and it was on that
right,
peninsula bar counter. It was kind of higher than a normal counter. Like
yeah.
you wouldn't sit there, you'd
It's
stand
almost like
there, I
yeah,
guess.
it's like an apothecary bar kind of bench thing. It's weird.
Yeah, it very much was, unless you're 7 feet tall and that's how you eat. I don't know. um Definitely out of my wheelhouse. But I remember there were things on there, and one of the girls went over there to close the utility room door. She was like, "Why does this door keep
Right,
opening?" And
right,
I'm like,
right. Well,
I don't know. And that's when it was a cup or something on the sink, and it
right.
just literally like slid all the way down,
Yep.
and no one was there. Um, the reason why these things aren't as pertinent in my mind is because at this point, stuff is starting to pop off in all the rooms.
Yes.
And I've got literally 4 girls dog piled on each other in the corner, freaking out. I've got one boyfriend in the corner, like Blair Witch style, put him on timeout. And then I've got the other 2 boyfriends. Literally, these are like 19, 20-year-old boys, and they're holding hands
Yeah.
in a chair, like
Yeah,
shaking.
yeah, they're
And I'm
frightened.
like,
They're frightened. Something dark is going down, and they
it is.
were out of their element for sure.
I mean,
Uh,
God bless all of them. Like
yeah.
they were so sweet, but that was, I mean, that's a lot. Can you imagine like your first apartment away from home and
It's
all that's going
haunted
down?
as hell, right?
Yeah.
Oh
So
man.
at this point, I go into mama bear mode, and I'm trying to like get the girls to unfurl themselves from one another and like everybody calm
Yeah,
down.
we get them on
Yes,
the
stuff is
couch, right?
happening. Yeah,
Yeah.
like let's actually sit where we can breathe, not on each other, and
Mhm.
get everyone to calm down because when when you have your fear, it feeds whatever is there. And the thing was already ticked off that I showed up
Uh-huh. And
because it
yeah,
knew what I do.
it knew
Uh,
it. I think it also picked up with the fact that you helped the one boyfriend already.
exactly. And
Yeah.
that really ticked it off because now I
Yeah.
knew, the clock's running on its
Right.
time.
Hmm.
And so stuff starts riling up. But again, I come back to the fear factor is when you start freaking out, you're feeding it, you're giving it energy.
Yep.
So I'm trying to calm everyone down. And that's when apparently when I was talking, oh, I went in one of the bedrooms on my own just to go
You did a
see
scan or
what was going
something.
on because I
Yeah.
hadn't even been in the bedrooms at this point. I
Yeah.
hadn't made it past the living room.
That's true. That's true.
Basically, like you come outside.
Right,
We're
right,
doing
right. You just took them out. It's like, oh, here we go.
Yep. Yeah. And so at this point, I'm in the bedroom and I said, let me just go wander by myself at this point so
Yeah.
I can kind of figure out what's happening there.
Hmm.
And at this point, you and Henry are kind of interviewing them, asking, any questions or
Yeah.
any reason why any of this would be happening, possibly.
Right, exactly. And we actually plugged the camera in at this point. We're running off wall power. We can't charge the camera fast enough. So we're running off wall power. Fortunately, that's not interrupted. And she she explained, this one girl explains her background. Here we go. So I'm from the Midwest, she says. I came up in a religious family, she says, and it wasn't my speed, and I was having difficulty, and I think she said she was in an abusive household. Um, that's 50. I'm 50-50 on that particular point, but then she drops the big bomb and kind of gives us the answer as to as to why all this is happening. Um, so I'm like 17, she says, and I was having a hard time in school, and I'm just ditching left and right, and I run across these people, and they're super cool, and they take me in, and they understand that they give me beers, and all this fun stuff, and they asked me if
This
they were.
sounds like the beginning of
Yeah,
Lost Boys, by the
it
way, the
does.
movie.
Totally, it does. It does. I mean, it played out like a movie the
It
way
did.
she was describing it. And Henry and I kept checking in with each other, but with glances. It's like, really? Really? I mean, so, so she was, and then one day he said, we belong to a very exclusive club, and we'd love for you to join us. Oh, really? That's awesome. Okay, so come here on this night, and we'll have a little sit down, and then we have a ritual, and then you're in. Okay, fantastic. She's down. So she goes to this place. Again, we're in the middle of the country somewhere, literally like the middle of our country. I don't I don't know where she was from. I don't recall, but she goes to this place. They give her some beers, and she doesn't feel right all of a sudden, and she's kind of loopy and hazy on everything that happens pretty much after that. Apparently they roofied her.
Mhm.
The next thing she really truly recalls is she's lying down. These people, her friends, her I quote friends, are all around her. One of them has a knife over his head, ready to plunge it into her chest. There's chanting, and bam, the doors get kicked in. The sheriffs of that particular constabulary punch their way into the room, arrest everyone. I think they shot one guy because he went after him with the knife. And she is literally saved at the last possible second by the sheriffs of that town from being sacrificed in a satanic cult. Oh, I mean, straight out of Hollywood. I couldn't write anything better if I tried. you know, and it's sound. We Henry and I are still checking in with each other. Yeah, yeah. She's telling the truth. She's crying about it. She's
Yeah,
not that good of an actress. And
she's not.
she's being completely honest. We check in with you, I think, because you come back out of the bedroom and you pull us outside, and I think that's my question to you. I said, do you feel she's being honest? She just told us a total whopper of what happened and what's going on.
Yeah, that's right. And you didn't even tell me what the story
Right.
was. And mind you, the other rooms, how they were, I couldn't hear anything. Plus, we had the AC blaring just to try and keep the place down from the nuclear. That it
right.
was so weird.
Oh yeah.
Um, They had the AC on and all of the windows and doors open,
Right.
by the
And it
way,
was
during
still
this.
like a desert in there. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like 45 degrees that night. So, it's not normal that you would want it.
Right.
So, and I remember telling you, like, yeah. Um, that being said, hey guys, listeners out there, just a little PSA for y'all. Someone asked you to join a super cool secret club. Did you get the details
Yeah,
first?
for sure.
My
Wow.
lord.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess she was just mentally in a strange place and she was just looking for friends that understood her. Again, I quote. And that's what happened. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we're out. You pull us out onto the balcony.
Yeah. So I pulled you guys out in the balcony basically to say this is my assessment. And I looked at both of you straight in the eye and just said, I can't leave these kids here with all this. Like, I
Right.
need to nuke it.
Hmm. I think that was my word
And
to you. Yeah. You said
yeah,
so.
well, I said light blast.
Yeah. and
And
and you asked
you,
me about intensity. How what do you want me to do about it? Because you're worried about how much of a radius it would affect, or something
yeah,
like that.
because the apartment complex, remember the apartment complex was basically dorms.
Yeah.
So these were all college kids, and I think they were like 5 stories high,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there were a whole bunch of them clustered together on each floor.
Right.
So, when you're telling me go nuclear, I'm like, how far out am I going?
Yeah. Basically, I said nuke it, nuke this place. I don't want to ever come back here again. Those were my
Yeah,
exact words, and you said okay.
I did. So before I got to nuking the actual location, I went through and that's when I did individual clearings on
Yes,
every single person who was there.
including us, including the
Yep.
investigators.
And then I nuked.
Oh my, okay, let me explain to you what this feels like, ladies and gentlemen, because I remember JJ is being tested on this case. All right. And so far she's firing all cylinders. She's getting us good info. But the reality is, can a cleaner really clean a place? Is she really psychic? Yada yada yada. The questions are in the back of our heads. Henry is in mine. So we're sitting there. We're waiting. We're not allowed to record her. Totally acceptable. I totally understand that. That was her process. So we're waiting. We're doing small talk with the kids. How long is
That's
this
right. I
going to...
went into another room.
Right. And they were sitting there. We're talking. How long have you been doing this? Oh, a few years. JJ, it's our first time with JJ. I think we explained what was going on with them. And then you have to have been in front of a cannon to understand what everybody in that room felt. If you've ever been to a Civil War reenactment, for example, and you hear the cannons go off and you feel it in your chest, that concussion, that is what we felt without the explosion. It was just amazing. I mean, boom. And we all stopped what we were doing. Our eyes bugged out for a second. So we feel this electrical concussion wave just kind of go through us. Henry and I look at each other. Did you feel that? Yeah, I felt that. Did we have an earthquake? That wasn't an earthquake. And then we feel the atmosphere change, and it's suddenly cooling off very quickly. Very quickly. And it was amazing. They actually stood up, and like 5 minutes later, after you just come out of the room, and they turned down the dial because it was getting too cold in the place. They closed the windows. It was amazing. That's the only way I can describe it. It was the most amazing experience I've ever witnessed, felt, whatever, what have you, in my life doing this work. And yeah, you saved lives that night, I feel. I truly
2 of them
believe
for
that.
sure.
Yeah, you saved lives that night because you nuked it. We felt it.
I think everyone felt it.
Yeah, we all felt. Yeah, I'm
The
sure
whole
the
building.
neighbors were gonna. What the hell is that?
Yeah.
Suddenly I feel real good. There's no negative energy in the world right now. So
Yeah.
JJ lived up to her claims. She
Woo.
is a cleaner. She did the work and it worked out. We check in
Mhm.
with these kids a week later, everything's hunky dory. I mean, these kids couldn't be happier. They're little happy peas in their little happy pod, and they're they're enjoying their lives. They're very thankful. Um,
They actually reached out to you like 2 or 3 months after.
I think so. Yeah,
And same thing. They were like, no, no, no. I had you reach out to them a couple months after
yeah,
just to
they're
kind of check in, make
check in.
sure. And everything was great.
They were fantastic. They were doing really good. I think one or two of them were graduating early or something like that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with JJ's help, Scary helped these people, and that's why we do it. And
I scared the
you
scary.
scared the scary things. That's our motto. Don't get scared. Call Scary. That's
I
us.
love it.
you know,
It's super fun.
it's great when you can actually make a difference.
Yes.
It's fantastic when you can make a difference like that. And I had only experienced that one time before, and that was without JJ, and that's just me use my detective brain. Um, and just making some weird connections with that was the case with the cell phone that rang without a battery in it.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, you
Yeah.
didn't have an official psychic or a cleaner
No, we
on
had a
board
couple of
for that.
amateurs, but they were just mediums, basically, general mediums. They didn't really have your abilities.
But thankfully, you had the wherewithal to suss it out.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know I beat this a lot into
The drum
this
is
specific
we already
point.
hear this drum going. All right, keep going.
I'm on it. But it's so vitally important if you're going out in the field doing paranormal investigation that you know how to spiritually protect yourself.
hmm
Okay. And that's even if you don't have a psychic or a cleaner with you. If you're going out, you're looking at stuff, you need to be spiritually protected in some way, shape, or form, whatever your beliefs are.
And
The second thing,
at this point, I will recommend they watch your video on that. Your video. You have a video on how to protect yourself, correct?
I do. I have
Okay.
two. The instructional is probably the best one if you're doing paranormal investigating because it also teaches how to bubble, clear, and light blast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So sorry to throw a plug in in the middle of your description. Go ahead. You were saying point number two.
No, that's fine. But, my main point on this is you need to be educated about what it is that you're doing and what it is that you're going into.
Mm-hmm.
And the best example I can think of is what if you went to a doctor's office and you had like a serious something going on and they told you there's no doctors, there's no RNs available, but you'll do just fine with the janitor and this nurse who can take your weight and blood pressure.
Right. Yeah. The front
Would
desk
would
staff
you
and the
go
janitor.
in?
Right.
Would you pay to go to a hospital that was the
Of
case?
course not. Of course
Okay.
not.
So then why would you go in the field
Right.
without someone who can actually diagnose what is going on? I mean, cool, you're getting stuff on tape, but a lot of the issue is people have all these apps and stuff now to put stuff out that is fake. And this is why I bring stuff up to you because your expertise is knowing what's fake and what's not
Yeah.
on video. Um, but I mean, if you're going out there and you truly want to investigate things and not just be able to share something online for the wow factor,
Right.
if you're really, really into this work and you really want to help yourself, the place, the people, spirits, whatever it is, then you need to have someone with you who can do this type of work, whether it's a psychic, a medium, a cleaner, learn how to protect yourself, all those things. But don't go willy nilly on out there and then wonder why something attaches itself to you. And all of a sudden, you got 12 kinds of issues going on.
Uh-huh. And we've seen it happen not only to crews we know, but we've seen it happen to crews on television
Yes.
because they were not safe.
Not even
Not
remotely.
even remotely safe. And these television personalities have confessed to this. It's like, we didn't know what we were doing and we got these problems. But there's also, yes, there was a time where I said, no psychics. It's pure technology. That's what's going to, I was on board with it. I think Henry was on board with that initially. But then we discovered it's probably not the best move.
It is not.
It is not the best move, no. And we need someone who lives in that world who can actually divine what's happening in the ethereal world, because I can't see it, not that well anyway. And
And not everything is a demon or a
oh
ghost.
yes, yet another podcast from JJ Rose. You should probably listen to. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just, I know it's an irritation for me because we'll watch things or we'll, look at other paranormal investigative groups and everything is a demon or a ghost. Like that's what apparently is hot in cells right now. And that's wonderful, but usually it's not. Like
No,
there's so many things in between.
there's a lot of things in between, exactly. From this point on, the interview continues when we talk about a case you may be well familiar with, as you heard the story on the two-part Team SCARI episodes. This is the case out in the country where we met with a warlock. So I didn't really want to rehash that information. However, I will tell you something interesting on the tech through. You will recall that on the case that JJ joined us on for the first time, we had a massive, massive power drain. And I think maybe we got a total of 30 minutes of footage of the 3 hours that we were there. Our two pieces of camera equipment were a handheld digital camcorder and a high definition tape camera that I had borrowed for the project from my film department. Suffice it to say, the camera, the tape camera, the big one, the high def one, lost power and everything immediately. And when I got things back home to edit and to, peruse for the client, most of it was just the basic initial interviews. When I look at my digital camera, suddenly it doesn't work for no real reason. I had plugged this thing in at the tail end just before JJ does her thing and causes that concussion force what I talk about. It showed it recording plugged into the wall. I recorded the entire thing. When I get it home, all of that footage is corrupted. The camera is basically turned into a card reader because the lens mechanism itself and the internal mechanism, the CMOS chip that's in there, doesn't function properly anymore. It's blurry, it's distorted. It looks like, the leader on video where you get the tone and the colors. It looks like colors. So you just get and it's not actually the colors, it's just whatever I point the camera at has that effect. And it's nothing internal on the camera. This camera was super simple. It didn't have any bells or whistles on it, except a digital zoom and record and stop function. Honestly, it was that simple. There was really no explanation for this camera to be damaged at all. We took very good care of it. I'm not really one to drop kick my equipment just cause. And there were no accidental drops on the case at all. Bringing home two perfectly intact cameras, one suffered a massive power loss and was kind of useless to me, and the other one was completely corrupted from it seemed to me from the chipset out, left me and still leaves me quite boggled as to, not boggled, I should rephrase that. It leaves me wondering, and perhaps this is a question I should ask JJ in the future, how powerful was what we encountered there? Because we saw some really bizarre things that I can only verbally recount. Because, again, both cameras just failed to work after a certain point. So Yeah, something to ponder. Okay, that is all for this particular episode. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time. Thank you for watching and listening. Please click the subscribe button and activate notifications for future episodes and other content. On Spotify, please don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. If you have a paranormal experience that you would like to discuss on the show, please email us at paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. That's paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram under paranormal.insight.podcast